Hi, and welcome back to this series where we're building our portfolio website using the CSS Grid, and this time we're actually working on the portfolio section. So I have on the screen right now my markup for the portfolio section and what we want it to look like in the end. Right now it doesn't look quite like this. So the idea here is that I have my big portfolio section. It's going to have the gray background on it. Then I have a div of portfolio items, so it's going to hold all of my portfolio items here. I'm going to have a featured portfolio item and then just a whole bunch of my regular portfolio items or portfolio item there. So one's featured and the other ones aren't. And the idea is you could put featured on any of them and it will always be the first one here at the top. It's also going to be the bigger one. So in here I have my image and then I have a fig caption. And in my fig caption I have my H2, a paragraph, and a link to get more info on it. So that is when we hover, we are going to get... Oh no, I lost it. Where is it? There it is. When I hover on top, we're going to get something that looks like that. So when I hover, I get all of this information popping up on top. And when I click on the more info, it eventually will have this popping up, but we're not going to be doing that in this video. Cool, so let's get started on all of that. Get rid of that for now and start working on what this should look like. So the very first thing I'm going to do is come into my partials here. And I'm going to make a new file called portfolio.scss. And I'm going to go into my all here and I'm going to import it. So just copy, paste, and import portfolio. Save that, close that down, and now I can start working. I'm going to hit Command backtick, and I'm in VS Code right now, so that brings up my terminal. If you're using, well, you've probably been following along, so you should know how to do this at this point. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, I do recommend you start this from the beginning, or at least watch the first one where I write the markup and explain everything that I am doing. Cool, so here we go. Just really quick, I did have a question about using grid areas. I will be doing grid areas when I get down to the Contact Me section, but for this one, we're not going to need it. So there is quite a bit of styling that's just going to go into this to get the names and all of that on top of here. But let's start from the very beginning. We have my whole portfolio. So .portfolio, gotta spell it right. All right. So my portfolio, the simplest thing we can do is just do a nice little text align center. We can also give it a background color. My background, I haven't... It's been a little while. It's been like 2 weeks because I pre-recorded some of my other ones, so I don't remember my color names. It was just light gray. Cool. Light gray. There we go. And it will need some padding. So padding, let's say 10M0. That looks pretty good. I like trying to stick with just margin bottoms and not having a margin top on this one. So I'm going to go back into my About Me, and I have a margin top on that, but we're going to add a margin bottom on this one of maybe 10M. I have such a small margin top though. Why do I'm going to go back to my initial design here for a second. Okay, I'll make that a bit smaller. Okay, I'm going to make this like 5 and 5. Just because... yeah, I think that works a little bit better. This is whoops. This is probably coming from my margin on my title, I'm guessing. Just go look. Inspect on there, and... Did I make a mistake here somewhere, guys? That section that's about me. Oh, my padding's just too big. Silly, silly, silly. Okay, portfolio padding, we'll make that 5, just so it matches. So this space and this space are equal. Okay, so that's my portfolio. Next, what do I need to do? So now I'm going to look at my individual portfolio item. So we're going to do .portfolio item. These are figures, and figures by default have a margin and padding, but I did take that off in my first or second video, so I'm not gonna have to worry about that. But one thing we're gonna do is let's give it a position of relative, right? Relative, and an overflow hidden, just in case. And then we can, I'm just trying to think. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build out just the functionality of it. Right, so that should be enough for now. I just want the whole hover, and I want this sort of looking a little bit better. We're going to come back into our portfolio item after, though, once I start doing it more layout-wise. So portfolio item, we have our fig caption. So this one will be a position absolute, which is why I put a position relative on this one. It's also going to need a background color on there. So background is my accent color. And with this we should do top. I'm just going to do a top, bottom, right, left, just for the moment, so we can see it. My background shouldn't be accent though, it should be RGBA. Accent at like probably, I don't know, 0.6. How's that look? Am I getting an error? Oh, whoops. There we go. That looks a little, that's not terrible. Do I need it that dark? We'll try 0.5 for now. We'll make sure we can read our text once everything is styled. And well, speaking of that, we might as well change the color of everything here to white. And I think white, I actually made a variable. Yeah, okay. In this case, the text alignment should be on the left, so we'll do that to fix that. That's okay. So next, we want to be able to position our text a little better. So I think the best way is going to do a display flex on this, and then a flex direction. We can make that. I'm going to do column, but just to show you why. Let's just save that, and now they go the wrong way. So by doing my flex direction column, then they stack and they go back to the way we want them. And the whole point of this is so I can bring my stuff down to the bottom. So if I do a justify content flex end, it will, instead of being all stuck to the top, will all be stuck to the bottom. Cool. I did a color white, but we'll have to fix our title up anyway. So that's a little better. Let's go look again at my layout just to make sure we're sort of on the right page here. We want it to look more like that. So I'm gonna actually, I did a flex end. That's okay, we can pull that up after. I'm wondering here, I don't have very good consistency between these two. I'm actually, this and this should be the same font. I should fix that and make my subtitle a little different. Good to know. I'm surprised I let that go, actually. It's really bothering me now that these are different. Okay, but that's gonna pop up. Okay, so we're on the right path. So let's just build in like the hover that we're gonna have, and then, no, I'm gonna leave this up because I wanna be able to see everything, and then we'll put the hover in after. So I have my portfolio title, I think is my titles. So let's just say color is white, and we'll see, yeah, there we go. So that changed to white. I think one thing, everything's stuck to the side here. So we're gonna add a little bit of padding. Already, let's make that maybe 2 even. There we go, that looks much better. Okay. So we're on the right track. This needs to be much bigger. So the size of that font size is going to be 3.625 rem. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. We can always play with that font size too. But that looks okay. And I want this to be at the top. So I should just be able to do a flex, not flex, sorry, align self flex start, except it didn't move. What? Oh no, it's because I'm using columns. That's not going to work. Flex start, like here, if I do a flex end on that, it's going to move to the right side, because this is the main axis now, and the align self works along the main axis, and as far as I know, there's no way to actually align self on that. So let's take this display flex, this justify content end off, so it's all going to go back to the top. I'm going to do a margin bottom auto. Ah, there we go. Okay, cool, good. Really cool thing with flexbox is if you do a margin bottom auto, it just means like fill up all the space and push all the other stuff down. I could do the same thing if I selected this. I could have done a margin top auto, and it would have just shoved it all down. But yeah, one of the nice things. And again, this is flexbox, guys. We're not even doing grid stuff, but there's still really, don't discount the grid. Don't discount flexbox. I keep saying it, but it's important that you don't. I have these little spaces right now between all of these. That's kind of bugging me. That would be my portfolio item image. And I just realized I didn't nest this. I could have nested it, but I could have done that and it should still work. And that, not sure why I didn't do that before. So that's my fig caption, and let's just bring this in and do my image in here too. Display block. There we go, just to get rid of that little space on the bottom. I've talked about that before, but it's because it treats images are inline block, and so they're accounting for the little space underneath. So it just gets rid of that. Okay, dokie. Let's just go back and look at my design again. So this actually looks more or less like I want, and I just need my text to stand out, and this should be a little, let's make this like 75. I need to be able to read my text easier. So portfolio item A, my links. I don't think I gave those, oh, I called them portfolio link. So I might as well use that actually. Portfolio link. And I don't need to nest it then. But if I'm doing portfolio title, portfolio link. Cool, okay. So my portfolio link is color white. So white is fine, and then my font weight will be font weight bold. And I need to make my font size bigger. Let's just go and once again look. I know my font size is bigger on my links than it is on this. The font size, I know it's off screen for you guys, that's 14, and this one is 16. So my font size of 1 rem makes it tiny. I'm gonna make it a little bigger than that, 1.1. More info. Cool, good. So that's looking not too terrible. Let's go back to my design for 1 second. I have my little arrow that I should add in there too. Yeah, my underline is also more pronounced. So let's do a text decoration of none, and then we can do a border bottom of like 2 pixels solid. Yeah, we'll just do white. Ooh, and then I guess this just needs to be align self flex start. There we go. By default, things that are flex children are stretch, so it was stretching the whole size. So that fixes that. And actually, let's make this like 3 pixels. Cool. Good, good. That's looking nice. Okay, and I want to get that little icon in here. So for that little icon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say and after. So this is after my portfolio links, but inside the link. So it's just after the O. The only thing with this is the underline will go with it, but that's not the end of the world. After we want content, do a URL. So it's going to be back 1 step, images, and what did I call my arrow? Arrow.svg. Arrow.svg. I'm a little bit worried about the size of this when I save. Do I not have a white arrow? I didn't save my white arrow? We'll have to come back and fix that then. So then we can say width of 1em. Height. Can't I? Oh, display inline block. Oh my goodness, where did it go? Inspect. It's there. There's a height but no width. Width 1em. Cool, cool, cool. That's more or less what I thought would happen. So I do want a little bit of space there, so we can do a margin left of like 0.5em. The only problem is I wanted that to be a white arrow and not a black arrow. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I just exported my arrow again, but white. There we go. Awesome. I also think it's a little bit too big, so I'm going to do like 0.8 and 0.8 for the size. Awesome. That's pretty good. Cool. Good. So I'm happy with that. More info. It's pretty obvious it's a link. I like my little arrow on it that I am happy with. Good, good, good. So that's all looking good. Now I want to build in my hover effect because I don't want this to always be up, right? And I'm also going to build it in with a focus because I do want to make sure if I'm on a mobile device that it works. But we're going to start with, let's just make sure we can do all of this. So my portfolio, here we go. So my top is actually going to be at 100%. So it disappears. And then what we're going to say is right here, and hover fig caption. So when I hover on top of this, the fig caption will get a top of 0. And there we go, it snaps on and off. Now it's not perfect by any means because we want it to transition. So let's add a transition of top ease in out 250 milliseconds. And it sort of just whoop, whoop, grows up and down like that. So there we go. I think that looks pretty cool. One thing I also like about it is it's sort of like, you can see that the content, like it's all smushed together and it sort of stretches out as it's doing it, which is a nice little effect. But now, so that's working there, but if I'm on a cell phone, it's just, I can't get it. So I'm also gonna take this whole thing, copy, paste it in and add a focus. So when you click on it, it pops up. It's not as obvious, it's not as user-friendly, but at least it works. So again, if I click on one of these, it will show up. So it's better than nothing, which still makes it so I can click on my more info link there. Yeah, I think it's user-friendly enough. I hope you agree with me. And just let me know. So it's kind of cool, you know, you click on it, get the description and all of that, and you're good to go. Cool, so now we finally get to start doing the grid. Okay guys, so I ran into a bit of an issue with my recording the first time around, and I actually have to record the second half of this video again. So I've reverted back to exactly where we were, but the one difference you might notice is over here my images are squares now instead of rectangles. When I'd exported originally from Adobe XD, they came out as rectangles, and I thought they would have come out as squares because that's how I had them in my design, and I didn't realize. So during my recording the original time, I went and cropped them down. I just went into Photoshop, opened them all up with the crop tool, ratio 1:1, and cropped them into squares because that's how I wanted them in my design. Otherwise, everything is just where we left it, so I'm going to keep going. So we're going to start with doing our at supports. And we want to do at supports display grid. And today is the 17th, and Edge has gone and rolled out full support for grid from what I understand. So that is good. We have full support for it now from most modern browsers, or from all the modern browsers. So first I'm going to select my portfolio items and just do a display grid on this, which of course won't change anything, but I do want to come in and give myself some columns. So we'll do my grid template columns, and we'll do a repeat because we want 2 columns. So I'm going to repeat 2, and just to show you, if I do 1FR, we should get, there we go, we got my 2 columns. So now what I also want to do is I want to say that my portfolio item, and I want to choose my featured one. Now I could just put dot featured here. I don't have to say portfolio item dot featured. I just find it makes it more obvious what's going on with this, so that's why I'm writing it like that. And grid column, and I want it to be a span too. Did I spell that wrong, or did I spell it wrong here? Featured. Oh, I spelled portfolio wrong. Put the F on there. And there we go. It's spanning 2, and it just gets a whole bunch bigger. And that's pretty much what I want, except the reason I need to add a little bit more here is, let's say I didn't want that one to be featured. Maybe I want the third item to be featured. And when I save that, now I don't want it to be in the middle. I actually want that to be up here at the top. So I'm going to come back to here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say grid column is 1 over span 2. So it has to start in my first column. And this is just in case I took like the second one. And I'm going to do a grid row of 1 over span 2. Meaning it has to start at the top. So I have to start on the left and I have to start at the top. And now whatever one I take and put the featured on, so even if I take it here on the fourth one will jump to the top, or I can go and take this last one and that last one will jump to the top, which is exactly what I want. So awesome. I'm really happy that that is up there. And I'll stick with that picture because it's a pretty picture of a tree. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to do with that. Now, one thing is right now this is working. I'm going to make a few changes here just because it looks good. But I'm worried at smaller screen sizes that we're going to have some issues. So this one still looks okay, but you can see we're running into some problems here. The font size is too big. I have my description. And if we looked at the original design, I'd actually turned my description off. I didn't have a description. So let's go find, where should I put that? Fig caption. I think I just called that portfolio description. Yeah. So portfolio title, portfolio link right in the middle here. I'm going to do a portfolio description. And I'm actually going to say display none. So I'm going to save that and it turns it off. So it's off everywhere, except I want it to still be on this one. So I'm going to say dot featured. So on my featured one, and with the ampersand, so this is with Sass. So it's saying inside of featured portfolio description. So this would be the same thing as if I wrote portfolio description like that, right? We usually see the ampersand at the beginning of something because you're using like and hover or something like that. But it just means take whatever you're nested inside and put it there. So we can do featured and like that and put display block. So I have a description on this one, but these ones don't have a description. So that's nice and cool. I'm also going to change the size of my font here because this one I think it's too big. It's crowding out this. And on this one, I might as well make it bigger because I can. So, whoops, that's my portfolio title. So let's make this a little bit smaller. Just try 2.5. That looks a little better. That makes a lot more sense on that one. And then again, we're going to do the same thing we just did. So we're going to say our featured ampersand is font size, and we'll go a bit bigger than we had it before. Let's try 4. Could even do bigger than that, I think 5. There we go. So we have a nice big font on that. It stays sort of in proportion to the size of our block here, and then that one shrinks down. And actually, I'm really happy with how those font sizes worked out. So there we go. I think that actually looks really good. So now we want to build in our backwards compatibility, right? So let's come all the way up, or all the way up. Where was it? I think it was down a little bit. I'm just going to select this for the moment and comment it out and save. And I want to make this work with flexbox. Now to work with flexbox, I think we're going to run into a few little issues, but we're going to try our darndest. So it's actually on my portfolio item. Is it portfolio item? Let's start. We're going to start with our portfolio items. So actually, I do want to come up. Portfolio. This would make more sense right here. So my portfolio items will have a display flex. And it puts them all next to each other, and this looks just downright terrible. So we can't keep that, obviously. Another thing I'm going to do on this is a flex wrap of wrap. So it puts it sort of back to how it was, but it's saying if you run out of room, go one on top of each other instead of one next to each other. And they were just getting really tiny, so this just stops that from happening. And now we can say that my portfolio item, so this is each individual one. Oh, I already have that right here actually, so we don't need to write it again. We can add in here a flex of, I want a flex grow of 1, a flex shrink of 1, and I want to give it a minimum size. I'm going to start with, say, 10 rem, which is like 160 pixels, kind of small. But it's not terrible. So you can see it's actually sort of, whoops. It's sort of doing what I want it to do. My featured project is twice as big, but that's just by chance, actually. It's just because it's the last one. So what's happening is they're trying to be 10 rem in size, which is 160 pixels. So it goes, if it can fit that, so we get 1, 2, but I'm allowing for growing and shrinking. So because I'm allowing for growing and shrinking, they will grow and shrink. So this one is growing to fill that area. So if you can see here, as it runs out of room, they're going to stack this way. Then, oh, I have room to fit 2 of them next to each other. So they're going to squeeze in next to each other. Then you saw it before when I get to here. Now there's room for 3 of them, so they're going to fit. Now these 2 other ones will come down here. That's kind of annoying. My font sizes are going to get all screwed up here, so I might have to standardize that a little bit. So let's just see as this gets bigger, because I think it's going to get terrible at one point. Yep. It gets really bad. They just all sort of go next to each other, which I don't want to happen. One solution would be to make this bigger. So then they can only, and then that's obviously causing an issue. Actually, I do want to fix that. We can fix that sort of by saying, I'm just looking for my image, portfolio item image, width 100%. Whoops, width 100%. So the images inside of a portfolio item have to match the width of what they're inside of. Now this makes it way too big. So what are we going to do? We're going to put it in my container. So portfolio items will extend container. Let's just see what that does. Not extend, that's include. There we go. So it will limit the maximum size, except that's too small. So container, and my max width will be, let's say 60 em. That's still kind of small. 75. That looks better. So it shouldn't get bigger than that. And that's not terrible. The one problem here is this is my featured one, so I'm getting the description and everything, and this one's not really working. Again, this is a graceful decline. It's still going to be functional, but it's just not going to be perfect. And this is far from perfect. If any of you have any suggestions on how to make this better, by all means, please put in a pull request. Fork this off on GitHub. Make a pull request on something that might look a little nicer, but I'm going to leave it like this. I'm happy with this. Most people who have browsers these days that are visiting a site like this will have Grid. So I'm not going to be too worried and be spending too much time on making it degrade too amazingly. All that means is this is actually going to get pulled out of here, and it's going to get included in here. Portfolio item, that was my portfolio description. No, portfolio title. Oh, I want to do that for this one too. Yeah. So my portfolio title and my portfolio description. So let's just put that back on for a second. Portfolio title. This will be in the featured, right? So featured portfolio title gets my font size of 5em. Whoops. And I might as well do this like this since we're in Sass. There we go. And my portfolio description gets a display of block. So inside of those, only in the grid. So if my grid is not working, my grid is not working. There we go. No, save. Oh, I'm supporting grid. Whoops. Turn all of it off. Turn all of it off. This. Save. Why is that still here? Did I not delete that? Oh, I didn't delete that. That's why. So let's save. There we go. There's no descriptions. My flexbox is working. And then if the person is using the grid, they get the better layout. It's still using flexbox. Whoops. Why is it still using flexbox? Do I have an error? I'm getting an error, that's why. Line 90. That all goes together. That all goes together. Open, open, close, save. No, close here. Whoops, there we go. Save. There we go. Now my grid is working. Okay. Ooh, I was a little scared there. Awesome. So this, I will be building a media query out, but just like all the other ones, the media query will come in time, so it's not going to look like this at the large screen sizes. One nice thing though, as I move that all around the place, because we're using flexbox, one thing we can do if you want, so say you don't want them stuck together like this, we can also come on here and do a grid gap, say 1em, and get a little like sort of gritty thing going on like that where there's some spaces between them. And one thing that's really, really, really going to be cool is eventually this is going to be just gap. And you see it's not working now, but this is the new specification. They're getting rid of grid gap, they're making it gap, and this is also going to work in flexbox, and I'm really excited about that. Not having to put margins on stuff is going to be really nice. But for now, we can just do a grid gap, but I'm not going to do that because I don't really want it for this. But it's definitely an option, and if you prefer that, you can use that in your design. And I think that's it. It's all working how I wanted it to work. I'm really happy with that, so I hope you are too. I hope you liked this video. Again, we're going to come back and do the media queries on this one at a later date. So in the next video, we'll be doing our contact form, and for that, we're going to be using some grid areas, which are my favorite thing with the CSS grid. So I look forward to that video. I hope you do too. And until we get to that one, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.